Hello guys, I'm Pickles Parker, and we've reviewed Rose and School Reunion. Now it's time to review an 11th Doctor story, Asylum of the Daleks. Enjoy!
What do you know of the Dalek Asylum?
According to legend, you have a dumping ground. A planet where you lock up all the Daleks that go wrong.
You will save the Daleks. The Predator of the Daleks will be deployed.
Is it bad that I've really missed this?
The Predator must be destroyed. Exterminate!
Get up! Just give me your arm! Catch me!
So, just a quick synopsis. So, the Doctor is captured and taken to the Dalek Parliament, where Amy and Rory are also captured. Amy and Rory are trying to get a divorce. Now, the Doctor must help. There's a planet where the Daleks put all their nutcases in, the Dalek Asylum. But the Daleks want to destroy it, but they can't, because it's the force field is on the inside. Stupid, I know, but that's how the plot goes. And the Daleks are too scared to go down there to turn off themselves. So the Doctor, Amy and Rory must go down there to try and turn off the force field. So then the Daleks can blow up the planet. Then on their way, they meet a girl called Oswin who's been shipwrecked. That needs their help in hacking the Daleks. They manage to do it out with Oswin's help to survive all the Daleks and get down there. Oswin turns off the force field, but the Doctor must go to get her first. Now, then we all find out that Oswin was a Dalek and that she was only a human in her mind, and she was converted into a Dalek by these crazy Daleks. Now, Oswin then disables the force field, and the Doctor saves the day. The planet's destroyed, and he goes back up there. But the Daleks do not know who he is. Oswin has wiped out all the Daleks' memories of the Doctor, and then he takes Amy and Rory home. Amy and Rory's marriage is saved, and the Doctor goes back on his adventures in time and space. Now, this was the first season opener that I ever watched on broadcast, because my first episode of Doctor Who was The Girl Who Waited. I watched then the end of series 6, and then I watched quite a few episodes from the past of New Doctor Who up to a Christmas special, and after the Christmas special I watched a few more, and then by the time this rolled around I've seen all of the new series, so I'm a fan now. But there's something about seeing Doctor Who come back to your screens after a period away, and I think especially as this was the first time, obviously we'd have the Christmas special, the Doctor wearing the wardrobe, but the less said about that the better. But I think that there's something cool about Doctor Who coming back to your screens after a period away, and I think how this story is set up, at least with the pre-title sequence, is actually quite good. Obviously, of the Doctor, you don't know what's happened between him and the Doctor the way on the wardrobe. So he goes, and he's on Scarrow. And then obviously with Amy and Rory, they're all disbanded. They're all not with each other, and then they end up being reunited onto the Dalek Parliament. And obviously this is quite standard for Doctor Who season openers now, where they're all away and then they need to try to get back together to face the threat. And obviously it had been done before this as well, because it's the same thing that happened with the Series 6 two-parter, The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. But I think obviously because this is the first time I had seen an episode like this on broadcast, it just made it more gripping, and it really felt like, yes, this Doctor Who is back onto your screens. Now in that pre-title sequence we see the Doctor and Skaro. And Skaro actually looks really quite nice. Obviously it's all dirty, it's all destroyed. And the direction by Nick Curran is masterful in this episode. It looks great. But that opening shot of Skaro looks great. Obviously there's continuity errors because in remembrance of the Daleks, the 7th Doctor clearly destroys Skaro. So how is it back here? There's no remark that they rebuilt it, it's just that. I don't know if it's one of the Time War novels or it's any of the Big Finish stuff, or if it's mentioned in passing that Skaro was destroyed during the Great Time War. Actually, I do think it was mentioned in one of the RTD Dalek stories, possibly Daleks in Manhattan. I think the Dalek says that Skaro was destroyed in the Time War. So, either way you look at it, obviously if it was destroyed in remembrance or it's destroyed in the Time War, it was destroyed. So how it's back now, I'm not quite sure. And obviously you look in which is familiar, Skaro is there, and they say, oh, they've rebuilt it. So, but did we just forget all that happened on Skaro in Asylum? I think they did. I think it may have been better if they would have just said, yeah, Skaro's destroyed, not had Skaro in this episode, and just had Skaro in Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar, that they've rebuilt it. But despite how it doesn't really make sense, and it probably may have been better if it wasn't in this episode, it looks great, and it is a great place for the Doctor to be. And the Doctor's great, where it's like no one escapes the Dalek camps. It's like it really also brings back that feel that the Dalek are sort of space Nazis, like the fact that nobody escapes the Dalek camps, sort of thing. Like the Daleks have labour camps. It really sort of like works and brings the Dalek scare factor up. One of the main critical points of this episode, aside from all the Dalek continuity errors and plot holes in this episode, is why are Amy and Rory getting divorced? And I can't possibly tell you why. I will defend this episode, but I can't tell you why they're getting divorced because I don't know. It is stupid because from where they are in the docks of the Whale and the Wardrobe, it doesn't make sense, especially not after all they've been through. They'd do anything for each other, and it definitely does not make sense why they're getting divorced. Especially when you hear the reasons for it, and if they haven't discussed why they're getting divorced, because if they're signing the divorce papers, that probably takes about 6 months tops to sort out your divorce. So why? And you're telling me they haven't talked about why they're getting divorced this whole time? It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense why they're getting divorced. And it's never brought up again, because the next time we see them in Dinosaurs in the Spaceship, they're all happy again. So it doesn't make sense why they're suddenly getting divorced, then they're not. But the music in this episode by My God Moving On is great. There's tons of tracks. I think there's the track when Amy and Rory are having the conversation in the Asylum. Really love that. Obviously we have the first rendition of Clara's theme in here, which is really nice. And then I think there's a Dalek theme called They Are Everywhere, I think it is called, which is really nice when they're in the Dalek Parliament. And then we obviously have the end scene, which I really love, which is obviously the rendition of I'm the Doctor, which is the majestic tale of a madman with a box. So I love Murray's music in this episode. One thing that you notice in the Dalek Parliament is there's so many bronze Daleks. But if you think, the last time we properly seen the Daleks was Victory in the Daleks, and weren't there only a few bronze Daleks left? Didn't the Paradigm Daleks wipe out those Daleks, and the Paradigm Daleks were the new superior Dalek? So are they all now bronze again? This is obviously because the Paradigm Daleks design got so much of a big backlash that their apparent story in Series 6 was canned, and they're trying to fade them out, because after this episode we never see the Paradigm Daleks again. Now, my problem with the Paradigm Daleks isn't their colours, not their design, it's just they look really plasticky. But in this episode they're really metallic paint jobs, and their yellow eye stalks have been changed to a nice orangey colour, and it is a really nice. I'm not afraid to say the Paradigm Daleks is probably one of my favourite Dalek designs. I love the Paradigm Daleks. So, I think that they should have, what I would have done, which is very similar to, I was watching another Asylum Daleks review from 5 Who fans, which was obviously made back in 2012 when this episode aired, and I agree with what they said. So in the Dalek Parliament, I would have just said Paradigm Daleks. Then when you get into the Asylum, I will have had the Bronze Daleks, and then when they get into intensive care, I will have had the classic Daleks. Because obviously that was a main talking point for this episode. Oh, the classic Daleks are back! But where are they? Oh yeah, you see, remember the Special Weapons Dalek in the corner for about 5 seconds. Oh yeah, when the Doctor's running down the exploding corridor, you see that that Pertwee Dalek for about milliseconds there exploding. Yeah, they're barely in it. And I think when you go into intensive care, you obviously have the Daleks, and they're explicitly slated the names, all the Daleks that face the Doctor, and Oswin reads off their names, and they're all Daleks that have appeared in classic stories. So, and that's why the Doctor's scared, because he remembers them. So why then would they will be in new series casings? It doesn't really make sense, because they have all the classic Dalek casings there on the set. So it wouldn't make any difference why they just wouldn't have these Daleks there. It doesn't really make sense. I think it would have more of an effect to have the classic Daleks in intensive care, because they're going to be the more battle-scarred ones. So that is how I would have done it. But I love the metallic Paradigm Daleks. I would have wished that we would have carried on with these paradigms, and maybe mixed in with the classic Daleks. I don't know how that would have worked, because there is an idea that many people have come up with, that we could have had an episode similar to Remembrance of the Daleks, where you have two factions, the Paradigms, and they're trying to wipe out all the old Daleks who they deem insuperior, which I think would have been a brilliant idea, which obviously never happened. But obviously we don't see the Paradigms after this episode. But I think it would have been really nice if we could have kept these on, because the Paradigms really look good in this episode, despite how few there are. Series 7 Part 1 titles are not fondly remembered at all. Now we have the Series 5 titles. I love the Series 5 and 6 titles. I love the music, the dun 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 dun. You know that bit with that theme. I absolutely love it. I love the title sequence with the clouds and the lightning, with the blue to orange. I love the music, like it's I love it. And I love the big blocky letters that come out where it says the name. It's like in your face, yes, Matt Smith is the Doctor, sort of thing. And then they change it for Series 7 Part 1. Yeah. Now these are commonly known as the Instagram titles, whereas they just had wimpy transition effects with a wimpy font, just like, yeah, it's just wimpy stuff. And then they put this rubbish filter over each title sequence with different colours. And you can tell it's a filter because the TARDIS changes colour every time. So you can tell they haven't just changed the vortex, they've just put a filter over the whole title sequence. And obviously it's not that bad in this episode, it's just a darker blue and a darker orange, and then the title, the logo fades in with the Dalek orbs. I don't think the texture of the logo is a bad idea to change each episode, but I think that fades in. It's still wimpy with the logo. I think in the Series 5 and 6, it was block stone letters for the logo Doctor Who, big in your face. So I think it's just wimpy. in this. And what really bugs me is when we get onto the Power of 3 titles, which is the famous pink and purple title sequence, which I'm not going to get on a rant on how much I hate that title sequence. But yeah, what they did with the Series 7 Part 1 titles is unforgivable, especially as after this period when they put the Instagram filters, we then use this title sequence all together. So the last proper time we see the Series 5 and 6 titles is in the Doctor, the Wheel and the Wardrobe. So I don't really know why they changed it. Obviously it's not that bad in this episode, it gets worse I think the more we go on. But yeah, it's just I'm not a fan of the what they did to the titles in Series 7 Part 1. Have Oswin, and I find her quite annoying. I think they did quite well to keep her Jenna Coleman's appearance in this episode. Obviously she'd already been announced as the new companion, but I think they did quite well to keep this appearance under wraps. You think if that happened in nowadays they'd be all leaked and they probably have announced it, but obviously yeah, she's in it, not as Clara, but as an Echo Clara, as we soon find out, as the repercussion of her jumping into the Doctor's time screen, bloody, just go watch the name of the Doctor. But I find her quite annoying, I would say. She's, I think, she's very annoying in this episode. Not as annoying as she could be. She could be very much annoying. But I think if we would have had her as the companion full-time as Oswin, she would have been really annoying. Like, very annoying. So, she's not as that annoying in this episode, but she would have been really annoying if we'd been stuck with her full-time. But I think it's clever what they did having her in it before she's actually the companion. It's a nice twist, nobody really seen it coming, and her character's quite good, and I think her character's a nice character. I just think, yeah, she can be a bit annoying, she can grate on you every so often. But yeah, we have the Dalek Asylum. I really love the concept of the Dalek Asylum. Now, because I love the Batman universe, I love Arkham Asylum, so it's a really cool idea that they put this sort of asylum style idea into Doctor Who with the Dalek Asylum. But as much as I love the concept, I cannot tell you that they made the most out of this opportunity, because they didn't. It's a wasted opportunity. They could have done so much more with it. I think they could have had some real battle-scarred, mental Daleks who are really insane. But what is in this episode is some Daleks who can't speak properly and some Daleks who are losing a gun and some orbs. They're just damaged physically, but they're not damaged mentally. You don't see any battle-scarred Daleks. Like, for example, if you look in the Stolen Earth Journey's End Party, you see Dalek Khan. Now, he is mental. He is insane, but you don't see anything like that in this episode, and I think it was a real good opportunity to see some good battle-scarred Daleks, and you think how dangerous one Dalek is when fully operational. Just imagine how dangerous, unpredictable and scary and insane Dalek is. Then take a whole planet of these insane Daleks. How dangerous and scary should these Daleks be? Very more scary than an average Dalek. More scary than the Dalek in Dalek. Because they are unhinged and they're unpredictable. Whereas you wouldn't know what to happen to them. But they don't make the most of this opportunity in this episode. And I think it could cost them, because it's a really nice opportunity that I think they could have done more with. And it's just a wasted opportunity. I would love for them to pick up the storyline and have another Asylum where all these Daleks are really battle-scarred, really insane. But I don't think they do it because they've already practically done this episode. Seeing as not many people really like this episode, I don't think they bring up this plot strand again. But I just think it's a wasted opportunity. I love the concept, but what goes on screen isn't the best. The Daleks continuously call the Doctor the Predator in this episode, but I do believe it is stated in, I think it is, the parting of the ways, where the Dalek says in the what they call him in the ancient laws of the Dalek homeworld, they call him the oncoming storm. So why do they now call him the Predator now? I don't know, because especially at the end, the Doctor says, "Don't you remember me? The Doctor, the oncoming storm, the Predator." So he clearly remembers that they're the oncoming storm. So why do they not call him the oncoming storm? They call him the Predator. I'm not really sure why. It doesn't really make a difference, because they do mention that it's the oncoming storm. So it's not like they've just completely deleted what they did, what RTD did. I just think it's possibly like, it's a bit weird. It's not a negative. It's a bit of confusion. But getting on to the Doctor, I love his costume in this. Obviously you have the Shetland tweed jacket, you have the very dark blue Aztec patterned bow tie, and then you have the sort of white sort of checkered sort of shirt that he wears. And I love this costume. It's one of my favourite Matt Smith costumes, or at least with the tweed anyway. I'm always in a constant discussion which is better, his series 5, 6 and 7 part 1 or his 7 part 2 costume. But I really love his costume in this. I think he wears it in the God Complex as well, and at the end of the Wedding of River Song. And I really quite like this costume, mainly because the bow tie, where it's just really dark, but it's not near on dark as in black, it's sort of a really nice dark blue. It really looks nice, but I love the Doctor's costume in this episode. Have the Dalek puppets, which is a big thing in this episode. Kinda. I'm on the fence with this concept, because on one thing I think turning humans into Daleks is sort of replacing the whole Cyberman idea, sort of, and I think that they're not really used in a way that would be good. I think when you see that woman on Sky who's turned, the eye still looks quite cool coming into her skull, but yeah, I think that it just looks a bit naff when that Dalek gun comes out of her hand. It doesn't look very good at all. I don't think they're used to great effects, or that woman isn't very good as the Dalek puppet. I think when you get onto the Asylum, you have that guy in the white coat, and he's very good where he's like, "I died. I don't remember dying." It's really quite creepy. Then you have all those skeletons, which is quite nice. But I think if they would have had more people down there who were skeletons, you would know. Because the thing is, yeah, these guys are turning into our Dalek puppets, but yet these Daleks aren't killing any of them. It's just they've been stuck there so long that they died. So the Daleks aren't killing any of them, clearly. So, that then means that the Daleks aren't killing anybody, so they're not scary. You sort of get what I mean. So, the more people that turn to Dalek humans, the less people that are actually being exterminated by these Daleks, which makes the Daleks come across as less threatening, as they're not killing anybody, and the Daleks don't actually kill anybody in the whole entire episode, which is quite frustrating. But yeah, I'm on the fence with these Dalek concepts, with these Dalek puppets, and I wished these insane Daleks would have shown more of their ruthless side and killed somebody. Maybe if the Doctor and Memory had gone down with a team of people, and then those teams could have died, it may have been better. And I think if this hadn't been Series 7 Part 1, and maybe they could have made this a 2-part, because obviously the big thing with Series 7 is 45-minute blockbuster episodes, no 2-parters. But if they could have made this a more Base Under Siege, stuck with insane Daleks, a team of them, 2-parter, could have made it good, could have made the Daleks more ruthless. This episode has a lot of the Doctor, Amy, Rory running down corridors. The problem is these corridors are clearly just the same corridors redressed. Now these corridors look awfully similar to the corridors that are used in Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. They're awfully similar to the corridors that are used in the spaceship in the Doctor, Widow, and Wardrobe. They are all fully similar to the corridors that are used in the next story. Dinosaurs in a spaceship. They're all fully similar to many corridors used in many different stories. And they're just redressing these corridors. And I think especially in this, it's very easy to see that these are the exact same corridors, just redressed to make you think they're different corridors. And with an episode that spends an awful long time going down corridors, this makes this very apparent that these are the same corridors. Now we have a beautiful scene between Amy and Rory. Despite the reasons, it is a very beautiful scene. Rory is trying to give Amy his bracelet and she's refusing, and because to turn you into a dark human, first it subtracts love, and Rory says that the whole point that is a basic fact of their relationship is that he loves her more than she loves him, which is a true fact, so it's a beautiful scene. But then it's kind of ruined by Rory putting the bracelet on, which is good, and he just says, actually no, it's not mine, it's the Doctor's, he doesn't need it. Which makes no sense, because if the Doctor didn't need his bracelet, then why didn't he give it to Amy when she first lost it earlier on in the episode? It makes no sense, and it sort of makes what's Rory doing kind of irrelevant, really, and it ruins what would have been is a really heartfelt scene. So yeah, some more inconsistencies there, which then ruins quite a nice scene between Amy and Rory. So we enter intensive care, and I've already mentioned the different Dalek casings and problems with intensive care, but it's actually created quite a nice, because these Daleks all wake up because the Doctor's saying they haven't woken up what looks quite a while, and the Doctor is absolutely going mental. He's like, no, let me out, no. He's absolutely screaming. So it does look a bit OTT what Matt Smith is doing, mainly just because he hasn't been scared with these Daleks so far. But I think it's really nice that the Doctor's actually scared of these Daleks, because you think back to Dalek. Christopher Eccleston is terrified of this one Dalek, which makes that Dalek seem really scared. So Matt Smith being scared of these Daleks, going absolutely mental, kind of makes you feel scared of these Daleks, sort of. And whilst the Daleks haven't been scary in this episode at all, they're kind of scary in intensive care. But obviously, the Doctor is let out by Oswin, and he goes in there, and this is where Oswin is. And he's about to rescue her, but then he realises that Oswin is a Dalek. Now, I never seen this plot twist coming, but it does bring up a lot of plot holes. And obviously, Oswin just dreamt this up, which is obviously, it's a fate worse than death, being turned into this Dalek, and she's imprisoned there. Obviously, it's sort of the whole thing of she didn't want to be a Dalek, and she's trapped inside a Dalek, essentially. Sort of is a plot twist that is kind of nicked off the Cybermen, but I didn't see it coming. I think it's really nice. I think Jenna Coleman and Matt Smith's performances are really good in this one scene. It brings up a few plot holes though, and inconsistencies. When the Doctor hears her voice, if her being human was just all in her head, then why could the Doctor hear the music that was playing in her head and her voice that was playing in her head through the speakers? Surely if it was only in her head, then she would have seen the Dalek's voice, heard the Dalek's voice, sorry. So it doesn't really make sense. But it's a nice plot twist, and I didn't see it coming, and it's handled brilliantly. And then finally, she obviously, by getting the Doctor into there, she wiped those Daleks' memories of intensive care, and she thought she'd wipe the Daleks' memories, all of them, in the asylum. But the Doctor gets back up there, and she's wiped the memories of all the Daleks. And I think this plot twist was a nice one at the time. It's wasted, absolutely wasted. I can see why people do not like it, because it's like the Joker and Batman have been fighting for so many years. Then obviously these Daleks have been, and the Doctor have been fighting for almost 50 years now. So if you think, if suddenly the Joker's memory is wiped of Batman, then you'd be ruining an iconic character. So you can kind of see what they did with the Daleks. I'm kind of happy that the next time we see them, it's sort of like they immediately get their memory back. But then I'm not, because it's a plot twist wasted. But I think if this plot twist would have been carried on, it would have got incredibly annoying. But despite what you think of this plot twist, I think it's very nice when the Daleks are just saying Doctor Who, and then the Doctor drops Amy and Roy off, and you've got the majestic tale of a madman in a box playing, and then you've got that hymn in the TARDIS console room, which is one of my favourite TARDIS console rooms, the 11th Doctor's first song, which is Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who, and then it goes to the next home trailer with Matt Smith doing that. It's actually a really nice scene, and despite what you think of the plot twist, I always love that ending scene. We have the Doctor played by Matt Smith, and he's my favourite Doctor, without a doubt, and Matt Smith is brilliant in this episode. Of course, it may seem like he goes a bit OTT when he's in intensive care, but I think that's only because he hasn't really been scared of the Daleks before this moment happens. But he's brilliant in that moment. He plays the quiet scenes really nice between him and Oswin. He has great chemistry there, and I think he's really good with the Daleks. He's really fierce. I think in that pre-title sequence when he's like, no one escapes the Dalek camps, he's really nice. He goes really dark, and I think he's really good. He puts an absolutely masterful performance, and he brings this episode up quite a bit for me. We have Amy, played by Karen Gillan, and she's alright. I don't think she puts in a great performance. She's definitely putting better, but it's passable. It's a decent performance. I think she's really good in the scene between her and Rory in the Dark Asylum, which I mentioned. But she has great chemistry with Matt Smith, as always, and Arthur Darvill. But yeah, she's not one of the best performances, but it's still a decent one. Next we have Rory, played by Arthur Darvill, and he's really good in this. He's really good in the scene between him and Amy in the Dark Asylum. He has some really nice comic relief in this episode, like when he's with the Dalek and the Dalek saying eggs, and he thinks that he wants the odd things, but no, he's actually trying to say exterminate. It's really nice in this. And another scene when they're in the Dalek Parliament and the doctors, and they're looking at the planet, and the doctor's like, how many Daleks? And they're like, thousands. And then Amy's like, are they armed? And then they're like, the Daleks are always armed. And then Roy's like, what colour? And then you look at him and he's like, sorry, there was no good questions left. He puts in some really nice, good comic relief moments, as well as being really nice in the quieter scenes. So I think he's another very good performance in this episode. When played by Jenna Coleman, or Jenna Louise Coleman as she was known back in this time. And she's alright. I think she can get on your nerves a little bit in this episode. She's not overly annoying, but I think she would have been if we were stuck with this version of Clara, and Clara's tenure could have been even worse, and Clara could have been even more annoying if we were stuck with Oswin instead of Clara. But she's not overly annoying in this episode, but if we would have had her more in this, as a regular, she would have got incredibly annoying. But yeah, Jenna's performance is good in this. I think when she realises she's a Dalek, her performance is really good, and she has some good chemistry with Matt Smith, but yeah, just a little bit annoying. We have Darla von Carlson, played by Anna Maria Marinka. Technically, who that is the woman who supposedly escapes the Dalek camps, who becomes the Dalek puppet. She doesn't put in a great performance. I think she's not very convincing. She's definitely better in that pre-trial sequence than when she's a Dalek up in the Dalek Parliament. It doesn't make sense why she's in the Dalek Parliament. Wouldn't have they just killed her off? And why are there no more Dalek puppets in there if she's the only one? It doesn't make sense, and I'm not very fond of her performance in this episode. We have Harvey, played by David Kayasi, technically just the Dalek puppet who's on the actual Dalek Asylum planet, who has the white coat, whose body was preserved. Now, he actually puts in a pretty good performance, much better than the woman, Anna Maria Marinka. He's actually really creepy. He's like, oh, I died. I forgot about dying. He's actually very creepy when he turns. So I think he actually puts in a good little performance for what he's in. We have Nicholas Briggs, the voice of the Daleks. Now, easily the star of the show in this one. A really nice range of Dalek voices. You can see that he has put in a lot of effort into this. Obviously, you have the standard bronze Daleks voices, then you have the deeper paradigm Dalek voices, then you have the Dalek Prime Minister's voice, which is really nice, and there's a slight tint of emotion in that Dalek's voice. Kind of reminds me of Dalek Harlan's voice. But anyway, and then you have the Dalek voices in the Asylum, and then the voice of the Oswin Dalek. So he puts in a really nice range of Dalek voices, all very good, a brilliant vocal performance. My rating, maybe nostalgia's getting to me. It's Matt Smith puts in a brilliant performance, as does Arthur Darvill. But Nicholas Briggs clearly steals the show with a brilliant vocal performance. I love the premise that is ridiculed with plot holes and inconsistencies, but hey, it's not the worst episode of Series 7. Cough cough, Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS, cough cough. So, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Some may say it's a bit generous, but I feel it's fairly deserved.
I need your help. The Pope requests most urgently a personal audience.
The Veritas contains a secret. Everyone who worked on the translation is now dead. Very few know this place exists. The Hereticum.
You're blind, and you don't want your enemies to know. But why does it have to be a secret from Bill?
You happy in those shades?
In the darkness we are revealed. Something's coming, Bill. Something very big. And something possibly very, very bad. You're the one who should be afraid. Never. How can I save them when I'm lost in the dark?
Please like this video if you have enjoyed it, and if you want to see more content from my channel, then please hit subscribe. Goodbye. Hello, Garnadon. So the Power of 3. Now this is from the era that I really enjoyed Doctor, because I was a fan from The Girl Who Waited, which is the back in the Series 6. I think I enjoyed the back in the Series 6, despite how much criticism it gets now. And I enjoyed Series 7 Part 1. It was only really until Series 7 Part 2, and especially Series 8, that I really started to get critical of the show. This was a time when, even if I think an episode's not that good, in hindsight, I loved it at the time. Now, getting on, I must say that the pink title sequence, really. Now, I love this usual 11th Doctor's first title sequence. It's probably one of my favourites, if not my favourite, just because it's from my era from Who. It's my first title sequence. I love the music in it as well, but seriously, what did they do? I hate what they did with the title sequences in Series 7 anyway, but seriously, pink and purple, I hope they do this for the female Doctors. No, sorry, for Jodie Whittaker's title sequence. I really hope they do that. It does feel this episode like a throwback to the RTD era with like the Earthbound. Who are the Grillmouth guys? I'm not really sure. This episode leaves a lot to be desired, to be honest. I'm not really sure who the Shakri are. It's a bit of a rushed ending, this one. And we're doing the whole Doctor Life, Real Life thing again, which I'm not really that happy about. Everybody Lives Again, not a fan of. Matt Smith's my personal favourite Doctor, but he's a bit iffy in this one. Some interesting concepts, but the lack of humour and a rushed ending makes it a bore to watch. It's worrying that our future showrunner wrote this. I'm going to give this episode a 5 out of 10. See you guys next week.